Hi guys, this is Tangent.
I'm Siv. Recently, we made an animation project for our group, Song of Silverbloods. And so we thought that in this video we would go through the animation, kind of like give you guys an idea of what our thought process was.
And to start out, here's the original storyboard that we came up with. Yeah, so this was the first part that I did. I was super motivated when we first got going, so I actually finished this part in a day. And this kitty's actually based on a kitty that I used to have. The main goal of this one was I wanted to make every character kind of have their own look for whatever reason in this. So I was trying to have their little details like the American curl and the big ears and the floofy tail and the random angsty guy back there and all that good stuff. The main focus of this was really to have a nice color palette that kind of distinguished it from the rest. And then, of course, we did the effects. Like, I really wanted to make them glow. So the lines were all white, they glow, and the tail actually has some sparkly stuff behind it that nobody really noticed. So if you notice, like, back there. This one was fun to have the little details, and it really wasn't that many images either. And it didn't have as much planning as some of the other parts that I did. There wasn't really much of a sketchy layer. I mostly just drew out this cat in its first position and the last position, and then just kind of in between the rest without too much else. After I did the initial Star Clan intro, I created these things, the little intro thingies in After Effects, and how they would work. And they were actually 3 different layers. So using this one as as an example, the fire symbol. You had the basic, let me turn these off. You had the basic symbol and then I went back and I did the simple glow effect, but I didn't really think that was enough, so there was also the secondary glow effect. The effects, the transformations, I just copied and pasted on all of them, but there was the opacity thing, and then there was the animation of getting bigger. It just makes it look so much better to have the slow out, I guess. This is the symbol chart that we use. The symbol designs, they're not our own. They belong to somebody else. But this was the order that we did it in. We did fire, and then water, and then shade, and then these two. They're not in any specific order. They were just the order that we were given.
Alright, so Tangent actually did the background on this one. I just sort of drew all the cats in their various poses. I think I intended to make the head tilt there a little bit longer, but I was not motivated at this time. Art block is a thing, guys. And so anyway, you can see like a lot of what we did was in After Effects. If you look at the lava, we added like a heat wave distortion. We added a few of the embers floating around that you can see in there. Just really subtle effects that kind of look interesting. Are you nodding in agreement? Okay.
For Fire Clan, this was the original idea, was that the main cat was just going to turn, and then you'd have the deputy right here. I ended up changing that just a little bit, just because when I saw the character design, and specifically the main Floofy, I just loved it, and I really wanted to kind of bring it out. I actually had to learn how to draw this character in several sketches first. This was the first sketch that I actually did of Solar when I was just trying to figure out how to draw them, and I was just trying to go for it. I did learn how to draw him later, and I was happy about that. This was the first try of making Solar do the head flip, and I was having a lot of issues with it. Basically, my proportions were really bad, the timing was really bad, and the swooshes were equally bad. I was having a hard time maintaining the proportions, and I was trying to animate it all at once. And it was just kind of weird the way it would kind of settle. I don't know. I was trying to do this weird head tilt thing. I was just trying to understand the character, and I was having a really hard time doing that. So I think I scrapped that one, and I went back to kind of a simpler model where I was really trying to focus on the head shape and the structure, because this character actually has a pretty long snout that's more flat, and I was really trying to replicate that as best I could to be true to the character, as well as the hair. So I kind of did a basic shape to know about where it would be. And then the second thing I did after establishing the head animation was animate the hair. Boing. You were not happy that I'd chosen to do a hair floosh.
I was not.
When I first made this part, I was not certain on the timing. It was actually, this whole section, animated section, was supposed to be in like this piece. No, it was like this piece of music. Him doing that to the roar was totally accidental. He was not supposed to be timed with that. That was just a happy accident. Water Clan! This was the last one done.
Yeah, this was the last one done because I went over this sketch like 3 separate times because I just was never really happy with how I wanted to portray it. But anyway, that was my first rough draft. It turned, due to like some events that were actually happening as the story, like the Discord group had some story progression while this was being animated, so I scrapped my first idea and went with this. It's just like a change of leadership for Water Clan here.
Symbolized by the glowy diamond. Ding! It's so shiny!
This is actually, right here, my own personal character. So, yeah, it wasn't really that hard. I took a look at some, like, other animators, and I just kind of did some simple animation where I just copied and moved the frame, and it honestly made it look so much better than what I was trying to do before. Like, okay, sometimes simpler is better. That's all I have to say about that.
This was my Photoshop file for creating the dragon fruit animation. Out of Shade Clan, I did his part before I did Dawnstar, and I actually forgot about this, but I was going to do an even stronger reference to the cat he was mourning, the cat he had lost, in this kind of ghosty, swirly form, but I decided it was too complicated, and it kind of distracted more than it helped. So this was the original sketch for Dragon Fruit. As you see, I didn't draw any of the body. That was just kind of copy and paste the stuff down here to make things just a little bit simpler. But originally he was going to be setting down a flower first, and then he was going to go to this position. There just wasn't enough time in the song. So one of the most fun parts about animating Dragon Fruit was actually all the little water droplets, the little water particles that were dripping off his fur. And here's just an animation progression, going through all those again: sketchy, line art, color, and then final effects. When I started drawing Dawnstar, I drew a few sketches just to kind of help me understand the character a little bit better. And here's a few that I used. And then after that, the first thing I did was I blocked out the 3 main poses that I wanted Dawnstar to hit. And then after that, I did the in-betweens, really trying to maintain the shape of their body as they moved and keep kind of a consistent and make it look real. And this one I animated on 3s, so I was really trying to maintain the look of smoothness, even though I wasn't doing as many frames per second. And then after I'd gone through and really gotten the poses to where I liked them, I went through again I did the secondary motion of these cheek floofies, and I based their motion based off of the motion that was already present, this time focusing on how they would move when the head was swinging them back and forth, how they would kind of have to settle in place, and things like that. This was a really fun design characteristic to play with and to see kind of how it would move with animation. So this was one of my favorite parts to animate because of that. And then here's the animation progression that I went through. Just again, blocking, sketching, line art, coloring, and yeah, the final. Here's the sketchy version.
Yeah, let's see the sketchy version. That took a long time. I know that I did a camera motion in there, and so that was just one of the ways that I wanted to do it, because it's all about like figuring out what you really want to show, and so
yeah,
that's another thing. It's like I wasn't totally sure where the motion would end up, so I animated a little bit extra just to give myself some breathing room, because I didn't want it to just sit there. So for Flint Star and his deputy Shoral Spine right here, to be honest, I did not know a lot about them at this point. Like, this was the first segment that I animated, and so you can kind of actually tell that. My movements are not as smooth as I would have liked them to have been, although I definitely feel like I improved a lot as far as getting to animate this. So the big thing with this was that it had a crap ton of layers, because Shoral Spine was, she's the cat, put your mouse over her.
This is Shoral Spine.
She's got a very pretty design. Yeah, I didn't actually highly simplify this. She's pretty much exactly the way she was, and this was because I don't know how to not suffer. I simplified Flint over there. But as you can, if you like scrub over her head frame by frame, you can actually tell that the markings on her neck are shaded, and you can actually see that, because that is kind of how that goes in the design, and I had to use a special, like, a bunch of brushes to blend the shading on that. So yeah, that's pretty much, if you go back to the paws for like just a sec, so you can actually see most of that design I did not animate. Yeah, go back a little bit more. You can actually see that one of his paws is shaded, the other one is not, because that one was moving.
Then you made this really, really complicated background.
I just can't, my simple backgrounds don't work. They just don't. Anyway, so yeah, the movements aren't as smooth here as I would have liked. I mean, I wanted Flint Star talking about something, but I didn't have anything to lip sync it to, so that looked a little bit weird. I think people pretty much got what was going on. You know, he's drawing a design on the floor, he's talking to Shoral Spine. Shoral Spine's like, yeah, this is a good plan. To be honest, they're edgy. This is something they would do. So we'll see if they live up to that.
I hope they do. Yeah, I hope there's something planned.
Floofies, oh my gosh, his cheek floofies took me forever. They're still not perfect. He's got a really rounded nose bridge right there, which I actually had a really hard time with. Yeah, Shoral Spine does too. They both, well, I'm not sure about Flint Star, but Shoral reminded me of an Oriental, and I tried to portray, okay, can you stop doing that? You're doing it again. So yeah, that's really just about all I have to say on that one.
This was the original sketch for Arusa and Demithra. There's my wonderful whip. I don't know why she has mushrooms growing out of her head, but she does.
Oh my goodness.
This was my placeholder that I used for basically the whole thing. Oh yeah, so this one was the one we decided to make a collab.
Mm-hmm. Decided that for one of them we would, rather than overloading one person, we just collab. Unfortunately, I was already overloaded anyway, so Tangent ended up doing the cat in the front.
She was another one that we had to simplify, and I was just hoping that it was okay because most of hers was different shading and gradual kind of effects, and I didn't know how to really make that look really good, so I hardened the edges and took the colors as best I could.
That's Rusa appears to be a Lycoy cat, and so if you don't know about Lycoy cats, they have a genetic mutation that thins the hair in certain places of their body. So where Rusa is darker is where she has more hair, where she's lighter is where she has less.
Yeah.
And so that's, at least I believe that's how that was supposed to be portrayed.
If you notice, there's actually, the light is actually slightly shifting behind him. It was just kind of a subtle detail that I did. You can mostly notice it with the blue and the yellow. It was just kind of tiny. But yeah, I drew the background. When I was first introduced to the idea of being in like a stained glass window church thing, I really wanted them to be in the light, and I really wanted to show like emotions by which colors they were in. Like the blue kind of a better mood state than the red, which is starting to get annoyed with the deputy. And I really wanted to just kind of play with that idea. And I spent too long on this. This effect was done in After Effects, where I wanted to make it look like it was going through the window. Looks like your character's... Look, Dimithra's growing ears. I have ears.
All your ears are belong to us.
Yeah, so it makes them look like blobs.
So I animated Dimithra there in the... what a lovely frame. I animated her there in the back. So you can see that I actually animated her on like 3 separate layers. She didn't really need her body to be moving. So I animated the head and chest on one set, and the tail on another. I actually spaced the tail and head motions so that they were on like different frame rates and would seem a little bit, I don't know.
Separate?
Yeah, just like separate. I actually lip synced her saying blah, 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 because that was written as a interesting aspect on the character sheet when it was sent to me. Well, not sent to me, when I sneakily retrieved it. But so yeah, she was pretty easy to do, except that halfway through, you see the little dot on her nose right there?
Yeah.
I finished the entire animation and realized that I put the dot on the wrong side, and I had to go back and redo that. I shouldn't have put the dot in there. Tangent added a really cool set. Okay, can you stop?
This next scene actually turned into a collab, even though it wasn't originally intended to do that. So I drew the grass, and I did the general After Effects kind of stuff, and the shading, and...
Yeah, I animated the actual walk cycle. It looks a lot better than I thought it did. I think because my Photoshop maybe doesn't render the way I wanted it to. For some reason, it looked jerky to me. So I went over this with like 3 or 4 passes, just revising the motion. I got real tired of it, so I asked Tangent to help me out with the background and like the effects and stuff, because I'm not very good at that yet.
But yeah, so I did the effects. The grasses layer, there were actually... I think 3 different layers. So there's this kind of background layer that I used, and then 2 layers in the front to really just kind of give a sense of depth.
And so this next shot is where we start getting into our still frames. I mean, it's mostly still frames. You can see the fog at the sides, it moves.
Yeah, we did the fog. I did the sketch for this one.
Yeah, so I drew all over the sketch. This is my painty. It's not really like a painty style. This was my simplified painty. You can still see some of the lines that I left in, which, not unless you look for them. I kind of tried to shade them appropriately. I actually left the full designs in here. You can't really see them because of the shading.
So this cat right here was just this mysterious cat that we didn't know. Please load. There. It was this mysterious cat that we really didn't know much about. So I kind of wanted to convey that, and I had just finished watching Avatar: The Last Airbender, and one of my favorite shots was how they didn't show anything above the nose.
For the Fire Lord?
Yeah, for the Fire Lord, like this really kind of hidden, secretive shot, and I really liked that, and I wanted to make it for a cat. So that was really what pushed this design a little bit.
And you animated the basic shapes, and then I remember you called me, and you're like, so, I'm animating the fluffies. And I sat there and I went, why would you do that to yourself?
So she did this one, really, really cute, and this is actually my little character in the roleplay. And I was really happy with how that one turned out, and yeah. I did the rest of these, which is another reason why she got the lineup. So we both kind of had a turn to be able to draw all these characters in their wonderful complexities.
And it makes a good contrast to the previous scene where everything was... We wanted to, like, clarify that everything was really desaturated because it's like a dream kind of thing.
Yeah, so this was in black and white, and this is actually a desaturated version of the one you sent me.
So anyway, yes, this was our project. Thanks so much for watching, guys.
Yeah, thanks for watching. Sorry if that wasn't always totally coherent, but this was a fun project. Bye!